Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this Mists of Pandaria patch 5.2 beta preview video. And in this video we're going to be taking a look at one of the new encounters in the Throne of Thunder raid. And this is the Council of Elders. Now first things first, I'm going to change the way that I do these PTR preview videos because of the dungeon journal. It'll probably be easier if I kind of talked through the different attempts we had. I mean, I've got 5 attempts to show you. It was okay. I enjoyed the fight. It's a really good fight, and it's really well tuned for 10-man normal mode at the minute. But if I talk through the 5 tries instead of just putting them all there, you'll have a better idea of what's going on. And I'll also use screenshots from the dungeon journal as well in order to show you more in depth the abilities and just the basic explanation. So yes, let's move on to our first try of the Council of Elders. So, as you can see, this is the first try of the night, and we've got 4 different mobs that are here. These are the 4 different bosses, which combine to be one boss, and Garagel the Spirit Binder also makes an appearance on this fight. And it's not any Ragnaros too soon, you don't actually fight him, he just helps the mobs out, because obviously they are trolls, he was a troll. So, there's 4 different mobs. We've got Kara Jin, I think you pronounce it, Saul the Sandcrawler, Frost King Malak, and the High Priestess Maril, something like that. And there's a lot going on. However, there is 4 mobs. I believe you only tank 1 of them, and you do need 2 tanks for this fight because this mob will apply a debuff onto the tank called Frigid Assault, and this is a obviously stackable debuff on the tank, and if the stack reaches 15 it will stun your tank for 15 seconds. Now throughout the fight, Gaugel's going to possess each of these mobs, and doing this will grant the mob an extra ability. Obviously it depends on which one. You can also see that Kara Jin is rolling around the room like a maniac. This ability is avoidable. It goes by the name of Reckless Charge, and you can see like a little animation on the screen beforehand. So we're currently beating on the Frost King Malak, and because he has been possessed by the Spirit of Garagel, he gets an extra ability called Frostbite, and this is where he will put a debuff on a player called Frostbite, and it will inflict 100,000 frost damage and afflict them with 5 stacks of Frostbite, and this will then cause the player to take 30,000 frost damage per stack of Frostbite, and this will spread to all people within 4 yards for 2 seconds every 30 seconds. However, the player's stacks of Frostbite is reduced by 1 for each player that stands within 4 yards. So if someone got Frostbite on them, we'd just have 3 people, well, 2 people and the person with the Frostbite debuff stand on top of each other. Obviously mages can ice block this debuff, and I believe paladins can probably bubble it, and any other classes, rogues, can do what they do, which is too much. So when the mob has been damaged for 25% of its health, Garagel will switch to a different mob, and here he switched to the High Priestess Marl, or however you pronounce it. And when Garagel goes into her, that's what she said, she gains the ability called Wrath of the Lower, and this is where she will strike a player with the Wrath of the Lower and inflict 150,000 shadow damage. That's gonna hurt. So you've seen the first try, and I'm now gonna, just because the progression doesn't really go much further on the boss after that first try, so what I'm gonna do is over the next 2 or 3 tries I'll give a list of the boss's abilities while the different attempts at the boss are playing in the background, and I'll also try and explain how to combat the abilities. I'll only do the ones that we've not been over yet. And just a heads up as well, each mob has 89 million health on 10-man normal mode, and I don't think the boss shares a health pool, so bear that in mind when doing this encounter. So first of all, let's take a look at what role Garagel actually plays in this encounter, since, you know, we fought him in Mogashan Vaults. Why should he be here again? It's not fair. So when the fight starts, he obviously inflicts one of the members of the council with his spirit, and he will stay in that member of the council until they've had 25% of their maximum health dealt to them in damage. and when that's happened, the spirit will be forced out of that council member, and it will go and inhibit itself into a new councillor. This will also reset any dark energy stacks to 0, and it will also leave behind a lingering presence effect. So first of all, let's take a look at the dark power. This is like a energy bar that the boss has, and if a councillor reaches 100 dark energy, then they will cast dark power every second, and this inflicts 10,000 shadow damage to every player, and it will increase in damage by 10% with each cast. So you don't really want your mobs to be reaching 100 energy. When Garagel leaves a councillor, it will also leave behind a lingering presence effect, and this will increase all damage done by 10%, and it will also increase the rate that dark energy is generated by 10% for the remainder of the fight, and this lingering presence is a stacking effect. So as the fight goes on, there's going to be a lot more damage going out, and also a chance of the dark power ability going off, so you do need to bear this in mind, and your healers do need to be ready for it. And now moving back to the Frost King Malak, there's one ability that we've not yet spoken about, and this goes by the name of Biting Cold. And this is targeted on one player, and it will inflict 85,000 frost damage and apply the Biting Cold debuff to them. Now this will cause the player to inflict 85,000 frost damage to any allies that are standing within 4 yards of him every 2 seconds for 30 seconds. So if you get the Biting Cold debuff on you, you just need to pretty much stay away from anyone else. So now we're going to move on to take a look at some of the abilities for the boss Saul the Sandcrawler. And his first main ability goes by the name of Sand Bolt, and this is where he will just hurl a bolt of sand at a random player's location being the key word there, and it will inflict 150,000 nature damage to all players within 5 yards of the targeted location. Now first of all, this spell is interruptible, and secondly, the location leads me to believe that you should be able to move if it is targeted on you, because it's not targeting the player, so you should probably try that out if you do come to raid this boss. Saul's next abilities go by the name of Quicksand, Ensnared and Entrapped. Now Quicksand is spawned at the location of a random player, and it will inflict 125,000 nature damage every second to all players within 7 yards, and it will cause them to become ensnared. Now Ensnared is a stacking debuff that will reduce movement speed by 15% per stack, and if Ensnared reaches 5 stacks, players will then become entrapped. And entrapped is basically being rooted in place. Now this is dispellable, but you will be rooted in place for 30 seconds, and if you're rooted in place in the quicksand, the chances are you are going to be taking a metric shit ton of damage. And Saul's final 3 abilities go by the name of Sandstorm, Living Sand and Fortified. Now Sandstorm is basically mass AoE that will inflict 35,000 nature damage to everyone in the raid for 8 seconds. This will also animate existing pools of quicksand, and it will turn them into living sand. Now Living Sand is a little mob that needs to be tanked. It does deal quite a little bit of damage, and by a little bit I mean a lot. And when a living sand dies, it will create a new pool of quicksand at that location. So you want to get all your living sands kind of stacked up on one tank and just kill them all off there, and make sure your tank can get out of the way before the quicksand is spawned. However, if you do not kill the living sands by the time the next sandstorm occurs, they will gain a buff called Fortified, and this will heal the living sand to full and increase the damage they do by 100% until they are killed. This is also a stacking effect. And finally we're going to move on to take a look at the High Priestess Marlee. Now we've already taken a look at one of her abilities, and that is when Garagel is inside of her. That's what she said, again. But these 2 abilities are her 2 main ones, which she will be casting throughout the entire fight, even if Garagel isn't possessing her. There we go, that's much more PG, possession. So her first one again is called Wrath of the Lower, and instead of inflicting 150,000 shadow damage like when Garagel's possessing her, she only inflicts 125,000 holy damage. Now I don't know if she does both of the wraths at the same time when she's possessed, or if the Garagel one kind of takes priority over this one. Her next ability is called Blessed Lower Spirit, And this is pretty much a little mob that she will spawn at her location, and it will move towards her ally, so one of the other 3 council members that's got the lowest remaining health, and if it reaches them, it will heal them for 5% of their maximum health if it's not killed. If the spirit is alive after 20 seconds, it will instantly jump to its target and heal them for 5% of their maximum health. So you've got 20 seconds to kill the spirit off, basically. This was currently bugged on the PTR as well. You might see the possessed version. It's like a shadowy NPC that spawns, NPC kind of walking spider or tiger, but we didn't get any of the blessed lower spirits. And Marley's final ability, as I just kind of briefly spoke about, goes by the name of the Shadowed Lower Spirit, and this ability will only be used when she's being possessed by the spirit of Garajal. Now this will summon a Shadowed Lower Spirit on her location, and this will fixate on a random player and pursue them for 20 seconds. If the spirit comes within 6 yards of the player, it will instantly kill them, no questions asked. However, if the spirit is still alive after 20 seconds, it will also instantly jump to its target and kill them. So just like with the Blessed Lower Spirit, you've got 20 seconds to kill it, except this one kills you in one shot, doesn't heal you for 5% of your health. Small downside. And Marley's final ability, as I just kind of briefly spoke about, goes by the name of the Shadowed Lower Spirit, and this ability will only be used when she's being possessed by the spirit of Garajal. Now this will summon a Shadowed Lower Spirit on her location, and this will fixate on a random player and pursue them for 20 seconds. If the spirit comes within 6 yards of the player, it will instantly kill them, no questions asked. However, if the spirit is still alive after 20 seconds, it will also instantly jump to its target and kill them. So just like with the Blessed Lower Spirit, you've got 20 seconds to kill it, except this one kills you in one shot, doesn't heal you for 5% of your health. Small downside. And Marley's final ability, as I just kind of briefly spoke about, goes by the name of the Shadowed Lower Spirit, and this ability will only be used when she's being possessed by the spirit of Garajal. Now this will summon a Shadowed Lower Spirit on her location, and this will fixate on a random player and pursue them for 20 seconds. If the spirit comes within 6 yards of the player, it will instantly kill them, no questions asked. However, if the spirit is still alive after 20 seconds, it will also instantly jump to its target and kill them. So just like with the Blessed Lower Spirit, you've got 20. So ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this patch 5.2 preview video of the Council of the Elders encounter on 10-man normal mode, and there's going to be a hell of a lot more raid testing coming in the near future. They've got, it's either 11 or 12 more bosses to test. I don't know if they're going to test the heroic only one. I hope they don't, because it'll probably ruin it if they do. But yeah, if you are interested in future PTR preview videos such as this one, then please do feel free to subscribe to the channel for updates. And I hope this video has given you a bit of an insight into what this encounter is going to be like. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.